All right. Hi there, everyone. Welcome to Believe in Bills. Adam Benini, Sal Majorana. And look at this blast from the past we have on today. Marcellus Wiley. How are you?
Oh, I'm great, man. It's good to return home where it all started. Second round, 1997, Buffalo Bills in the building, man. Excited to talk to you guys.
Marcellus, I remember, I've been covering the team since 1990. So that draft, when they picked you, I got to say, we're all in the draft room there thinking, Columbia? Like, what are they doing taking a guy from Columbia? But it worked out pretty good. You ended up being a pretty good player for the Bills.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I was surprised as well because I didn't have any contact with the Buffalo Bills before the draft. So combines, East West All-Star game, nothing. And look, they had Bruce Smith up there and Phil Hansen. And I was like, they're good. They don't want anybody like me. I never thought I would be groomed by the best to ever do it and one of the best unheralded players out there. So tremendous experience, but I think we both were surprised. You were surprised because of the school. I was surprised because of the team. I couldn't believe it.
I remember the one thing that I remember most about your career was the Music City Miracle debacle, okay?
Yeah.
I will never forget you in the locker room after that game because you were one of the guys that was so vocally upset. Like a lot of guys just wanted to just go hide in a corner, and you were like right out in front talking about it. And then 6 months later, when we got to training camp at St. John Fisher, obviously it came up again. And I remember having a conversation with you, and you were so dead honest about how much you were pissed off by how it should never have happened. I just will never forget that part of your career. It was you were really something else on that topic.
I'm still that same guy. I guess that gets me in trouble, but it also something that you can't forget. Yeah, I remember that. That still hurts me. The whole thing, like Ralph Wilson forcing Wade Phillips to play Rob Johnson and them nuts, all that work we put in for Doug Flutie, and we knew that playing Javon Kearse, the freak as a rookie, we needed a mobile quarterback. We had one that was doing well. Oh, the ROI we needed to get out of Rob instead of just get the victory as a team. Oh, it was just the worst. The politics invaded the locker room, and I guess I was one of the ones who saw it and wanted to articulate it.
You did.
My goodness. I mean, that I remember like being so deeply immersed in covering that back in the day, Marcellus, and the way that locker room, I mean, it literally got out of control in there. It was like divide. Do you remember like on like Abbott, like the lawn signs? It was like each of them were running for office, Flutie or Johnson or whatever. And the ironic part of the whole thing is that Johnson did enough to win the game in the Music City Miracle. Right?
Yeah. I mean, but the thing is, we don't live in a parallel universe. So we will never saw what Doug Flutie would have done for those first 4 quarters as well. I mean, basically it was 4 quarters. What was it? 12 seconds left, 13, something crazy. So I have just this firm belief, and I think everyone did, that if Doug Flutie was playing, it wouldn't have been 12-9 or wherever the low score was. It would have been 31-10, and then it would have been like, all right, we had the number 1 defense. We got Doug Flutie running around, escaping Javon Kearse. And, this is not to disparage Rob Johnson. He was a capable player, like you just said. And they were friends, at least friendly. It wasn't like that inside the locker room. It's just Wade told us one day that Rob was the quarterback, and we were like, you just told us yesterday it was Doug. And that's what lost us. We were just like, if you don't have control, how do you expect us to be under control?
I've covered this team for 35 years, and that week before that Tennessee game was one of the most, like you said, it was one of the most bizarre weeks we've ever had covering the team. It was crazy.
Send me the film. If you guys ever find that footage of that post-game locker room, I would love it because I know it was wild.
I'm still at Channel 2. I do the Monday night show there, Marcellus, and we probably have that buried in some archive. I mean, that's on tape, of course, back then. That's like 4 formats ago. But I will say this before we kind of get into the current team. I remember, so often going to your locker, covering my first year in Buffalo full time was 97. So it was the year you were drafted. And I remember, and I'm sure Sal would agree with this, that sort of listening to you, seeing how you conducted yourself with the media back then, I mean, we just knew when your playing days were over, you were going to be in broadcast. There was no question about it.
That's true.
And look how it all turned out. I mean, you went on, to star with ESPN and FS1 and everything. So, Sal, another one of these guys, man, who makes the jump. But we knew it was going to happen then.
But the difference with him is that he enjoyed talking to the media.
Yeah.
So he gets into the media. We'll allow him to come into the media. There were some of these guys who hated talking to us, who then all of a sudden wanted to be media stars. So he at least liked talking to us. I'm all for Marcellus, man.
Oh, so true. I know that guy, the guy who says hello when it's time to say goodbye. You know, in his 12th year, he's been an asshole for 12 years. Also, hey, how you doing, Sal? What's going on? Adam, you're like, nah, man, too late. Move.
Exactly.
All right, quick word from the sponsor here, and then we'll get into the current edition of the Buffalo Bills, another big important offseason for them. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. The largest selection of odds on everything, the NBA, college hoops, the NHL and UFC as well. Bet Online, the game starts here. So, Marcellus, you would have to be, speaking of mobile quarterbacks, when you reference Doug Flutie back in the day, what Josh Allen brings and then some on that front. And I know you had some strong opinion. He winds up, Sal and I both think correctly, as the most valuable player. And Lamar, first team All-Pro. Given the stats and all the other factors, we felt that was the way that it should have shaken out, and it did. But when you see, this quarterback today and where this franchise is now, they've come close. Again, an AFC championship game lost to the Kansas City Chiefs this year. What's your take on them and what it's going to take to sort of get them over the top?
Yeah, I mean, look, Josh Allen, tremendous quarterback. I'm enamored by him. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. I have a fat head of him in my game room, a wall. So I have full-size Josh Allen looking at me every single day, every single way. Truly respect him and how he approaches the game. I don't think he should have been an MVP, but they've messed that award up so long for so many years that he should be it based on the remix criteria that they use every year. But in ultimate, like me being a football player and saying I'm playing on the team of the entire NFL, most valuable, should be a lot simpler than this. It shouldn't have been that complicated. The stats, I look at the stats. I'm kind of like locked in with the stats. Lamar Jackson should have been it this year, but then you look at last year, he shouldn't have been it that year. So I get where we're all landing in the same place, different ways. But that's not to take anything away from Josh Allen. What needs to happen with this team to get over the hump is pretty simple. To do it big, to accomplish your big dreams, big goals, you got to do the little things. And if you watch them, especially in that Kansas City game, there's just too many little things that we need to clean up that will get us over the hump, because there are tiers to this success. And the Kansas City Chiefs found out there's another tier out there where someone will take care of those devilish details and be as talented or more talented than you. And that was the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Buffalo Bills came into the season undermanned. We all know by narrative, by personnel, a little undermanned, especially in the skill position, wide receiver, et cetera. But they were able to build. They were able to put it together. They were able to become glue as the season progressed and surprise themselves and many others out there. But when we got into that AFC championship game, once again, you look at whether it's the drop passes, or you could go all the way to the last play when Josh Allen's getting rushed and flustered, and how he turns his back to his own outlet and never thinks about him right there. And he's on a defensive end, dropping in coverage, and oh my God, he'd still be running. Like, he would still be running right now. But I'm only saying this because that's how close we are. And I'm also saying, look, that gap between good and great is a lot wider than you think, because it's easy to go from bad to good. The harder part is to go from good to great, because I've been on many teams that made the playoffs. We were damn good. But to be great, you got to lock in. So hopefully with an offseason of personnel adds and additions and us just having that laser focus, the whatever you want to say, the chip on your shoulder, we can get over that hump, because We deserve it, and we got the squad that can do it.
All right. So, as a former defensive lineman, we want to ask you about the Bills' defensive line because, in the 5 straight years here in their elimination game, the defense overall has been the problem. I mean,
Yep.
The offense was not good in the Bengals game, but the defense certainly wasn't good in that game either. And a lot of this falls, Marcellus, you probably won't like it, but I mean, the defensive line for the Bills has
Right.
been an issue. They have not gotten after the quarterback. It was the case again against the Chiefs. So when you watch the Bills, I don't know how closely you've watched them over the past few years, but what is it with the defensive line that is not getting the job done in the biggest moments of the season?
Well, let me say this. There has been a revolution in terms of how the quarterback position and how it's evolved into a new animal. And that animal is the mobile quarterback. That animal is the RPOs. There's a lot more stressors on playing defensive line than there's ever been before because the quarterback has more power. And in that power, he's trying to make sure he protects himself mostly from the defensive line. I think a lot of people think quarterbacks are always thinking about the secondary. They're thinking about the defensive line because if they can stay upright, they have confidence that they can get the ball down the field. So you got to look at it from the vantage point of they're trying to neutralize us the most defensively. So when they have success, it's because they've been able to do just that. I'm a fan of our personnel, but I'm not a fan of, obviously, as you said, the execution and production that happens in the most critical moments. But think about those most critical moments and then start thinking about those names and those quarterbacks. You can name them. Patrick Mahomes. Oh, yeah, that's something. Okay, you can name them. Lamar Jackson. Oh, okay. Like, we're not playing good guys.
Oh, yeah.
We're playing the top down. Like, two-time MVP. So when you look at the defensive line getting neutralized in those moments, well, that's what comes when you're playing against the best quarterbacks. They're able to try and take away your plan A. Here's what we have to realize. To win the big games, you got to be able to beat their plan B. Because every team, strength on strength, is going to neutralize itself. We're talking about the playoffs. These teams, the margin of error is this much. So we go out there and we shoot with our plan A, and they shoot with their plan A. And then we don't have the plan B fortified. So that's why it goes all the way back to the personnel, the lack of talent that we need to be one of those truly contending over the hump teams. And we're that close. But don't lie to ourselves either. We knew this going into the season that we didn't have the same depth as some of these other teams. We didn't have the same talent level as some of these other teams. And that's what came to haunt us at the end. It's just that difference, that margin of error.
Marcellus, let me follow up by asking you this. I mean, and Sal and I have talked about this. Does there need, the way they've built this defensive front, the defensive line, and of course you mentioned it in your comment just prior. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles are now the example. What they were able to do, how they built that, the size. I mean, the Bills are kind of light up front, and they're nimble, right?
Yeah.
And to deal with some of the mobility, for example, like with a Mahomes or a Lamar Jackson, we understand how Brandon Beane, since that first AFC Championship loss to the Chiefs, has tried to build this thing, and Sean McDermott. But the Eagles took things to another level to do what they did, right? With four against Mahomes. I mean, that speaks to how to deal with the mobile quarterback and those types. Do the Bills need to draft and acquire differently? Do they need to get bigger and sort of heavier up front to deal with some of those issues and be more effective, I guess, is the question.
I don't think so. I mean, look, if you want to really go there, we're not talking about looking at this team any different in terms of the personnel, I would say up front, whether it's Rousseau, it's Epinesa, Oliver, Jones, Daquan. That's not my problem. Here's my problem is we don't understand why the Eagles were able to dominate the Kansas City Chiefs and implement it into what we're going to do. So the way that they were able to dominate was simple. They took advantage of a team that wasn't as talented as advertised, and that's who the Chiefs were. The Chiefs, if you didn't let the Chiefs beat you in pregame, in the scoreboard, get mental points, because it's the Chiefs and their brand and their late success, then you're not going to lose to the Chiefs as you expected, because that's what the Eagles did. The Eagles walked into that game and looked like a team was like, we saw the film. Did y'all watch the film? They're not as good as advertised. All right, let's go get them. We're 4, and we could drop guys back, and we're going to go attack these guys. I'm better than him. I'm going to win that matchup. And they were able to do that. And the craziest thing about thinking about this game before it happened, the Super Bowl, was every player that I talked to was like, it's either going to be a close Kansas City win or it's going to be an Eagles blowout. Now I would say, why would it be an Eagles blowout? And we all came to the same consensus. Because they're a better team. If they don't lose the game before the game starts, they will beat them. And it happened just like that. Look at it. You got Travis Kelce. This wasn't his year. And that was one of the worst performances I've ever seen in the Super Bowl. I mean, there are plays of him not running at all, walking, throwing his hands up. Like, he's like, what are you guys doing? He just tapped out. I have no idea why he gave that effort. But you got Travis Kelce. Come on, we can handle that. You look at the receiving core, nothing scared you. What they got? Older Hopkins. You got Juju. You got Worthy, but the only thing he can do is run a fade route or a slant route. He's young. He's a rookie. Okay. What else you got? Anybody? It starts to echo. You don't have it. So what the Bills need to understand is we have what it takes. We just got to go out there and execute in those moments. But remember, we're playing the top of the top. So I think we need to go more in change of game plan. Like, you can almost respect an opponent too much to where you play yourself out of those games. And can't lie, we've been in that position before where I think the respectful game plan took us out. I love the Eagles' game plan with the talent that they had, and they went out there and took that game from them.
It's funny. You mentioned that. I'm going to date myself now, but what you just said right there, this is exactly what had happened in Super Bowl III. The Colts of the NFL were supposed to be this unbeatable team. There was no way an AFL team could beat the Colts. The Jets looked at the film of the Colts, who were an aging team, and Namath and those guys said, are you kidding me? We're going to beat this team. There's no doubt we're going to beat this team. And look what happened. They didn't kill them, but they beat them. And it's very similar to what you just said. The Chiefs were not the Chiefs we had gotten used to seeing. The Bills, would you agree, the Bills should have won that game? Despite all the things that happened, the Bills were the better team. Are we correct on that assumption?
Absolutely, but you got to believe it. And that's why I don't feed into the voodoo, the hex. Oh, the Buffalo Bills are jinx. Like, trust me, we're all energy beings. And all we do is transform it, right? We don't create energy. We don't destroy it. We just transfer it. So if you are one of those fans, because those fans are human beings like the players are people and human beings. And if you're one of those guys who are thinking, yeah, there's something about us in these late moments. And look, we do know we have a diary of late moment games that we should have won, and we've come up on the short end. But that's the difference. Before the game, what are you thinking? And when it matters most, what are you thinking? Because so a man thinketh, so he is. And we get into these moments, and I swear, I'm like, you could take our uniform away, and if you said we weren't the Buffalo Bills and we were some other team, we would have won that moment. It just seems like guys are just going into it, whether it's through game plan, through play calling, or through the fact that you're respecting an opponent that you're better than. Beat them. What are you doing? So I'm as guilty as these Bills are today because I lost my Music City Miracle. I get it. I'm not trying to absolve myself, but I wish we get over the hump by just aggressively attacking whatever that hump looks like. If it's Kansas City next year, if it's Baltimore next year, go out blazing. Do not get into all these safe mindsets that obviously has led us to more failure in those moments than success.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, and I know we wanted to keep this to 20 minutes, Marcellus. I know you got your schedule busy, but so last question from me, because you brought it up in those moments, and obviously, Sean McDermott as the head coach is trying to overcome that, and he's done such a terrific job in the consistency and the division titles and all of those things. But in that AFC Championship game, I thought early on, because in week 11 it was, the Bills had done a terrific job of containing Mahomes during the regular season. but they started using Mahomes' legs like Andy Reid, that whole game plan early, and he killed him, Mahomes did, with his legs. And the Bills, I felt like they were chasing that game right from the beginning. And then at the end, on that fourth down play that you referenced earlier, Spagnuolo, had been showing that look. And then the guys on the right side were dropping out instead of blitzing, right? And then at the key moment on fourth down, he brings that pressure, and Josh, is hurried and all of those things in the play. Kincaid should have made the catch or whatever. But I guess my point is this: how much does coaching play in those key moments? And is that something that Buffalo, despite their success, maybe still needs to overcome from that perspective?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, and I want to say it respectfully the right way. We have the coach we need. What needs to happen is our preparation. I think we're prepared. You need the reminders, and this is what I learned. I coach right now. I coach little kids, but hey, you get a perspective that's the same, which is when you're in it and you're going 100 miles an hour, whether you're on the sidelines or you're in the game, there are still conditions you have to respect. There are still plays that you have to lean into. And there are things you have to know, reminders. You have to literally mentally remind yourself. How many times we've seen a defensive end lose contain? And you're like, that's the easiest thing to do. Run up the field, three steps, stay still. But the thing is, he needed the reminder that, we were blitzing opposite. So contain is that much more important on that play. You can make those plays. So let's get to that fourth down. There needed to be a reminder because, look, this moment is happening so fast and it's so big in consequence that everyone's going to overreach for it. Everyone's going to try too hard to do too much. You got to calm them down. That's one. I'm sure they were calm enough. But when the play starts, you got to realize, they're coming. Corner blitz, right side. You got to stay balanced if you're Josh Allen. You got to, because they have forced your hand to make you run left and throw right, which they know is more difficult than running right. So instead, you loop around. That's fine. But now you just made this play that much harder. With a mental reminder of, hey, we know in this play, when they come from that attack point, you still got a hot. You still got an outlet. He's right there. All you got, this play could have been Pop Warner looking. It could have been, look. And he's not getting touched. But, and that's the difference. So we can sit here now, we can armchair quarterback, we can look back with hindsight 2020 and say, we need to do this, and we need to go draft here, we need the personnel here. And you know how simple it is? If you would have just had your shoulders square, and quarterbacks have told me, if he would have seen it coming, because there were some triggers that told you it was coming, if you would have saw it coming and just stayed balanced on it and hit you out, we can save our breath and save our voices. It's a hope. We win that game. We just win that game. Now we can go further. Kincaid catch it and all this. It shouldn't have been that difficult. Keep it simple, stud. Here's the kiss. Keep it simple, stud. We had to fix. We didn't apply it. That's why we're not champions just yet. We'll get there, hopefully this year.
All right, Marcellus, we totally appreciate. Sal, do you have anything else before we let him go?
No, he just entertains me. Then he entertained me today, so I'm glad we had Marcellus on. Always a good dude.
Always a pleasure. Great to talk to you, man. Hey, but as we let you go, you've got what? 2 shows on YouTube. You have a tremendous foundation, Project Transition. Just kind of tell us what you've got going on right now and how people and where they can catch you.
Yeah, it's been great. I'm here building out our network of shows. We have 2 right now. Hydration Situation doing very well. New show on the rocks, a group of my friends. So we got pro athletes and NARPs, as we call them, non-athlete regular people, like anybody who didn't go pro. And we just debate. Like I give it a level playing field. We just have respectful conversations, but we get after it. It's been great. Foundation, Project Transition. Educate and empower the underserved. We give them experiences and exposures. I take these kids outside their comfort zones, outside their locale, let them see different parts of the world so that they could go chase that success. So it's been amazing. And other than that, I'm raising my own little stable of itty bitties. I got 4 kids. All of them are older than me because they act so crazy. And I just love it. I chase them every single day, every single way. So that's life, brothers.
Oh, that's
Awesome.
great. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, Marcellus, great to have you. Thank you so much for your time. Tremendous insight and opinion as always. And back to 1997 until now. It's great to reconnect, and maybe we'll have you on during the regular season or whatever.
Oh, I would love that. Let's do it, man. Bills Mafia for sure. And love to you guys, man. It was great when I was out there in December, and look forward to seeing you guys again. Let's do it.
All right, you bet. For Sal Majorana, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, I am Adam Benini, WGRZ TV, Buffalo and Sports Talk Live. Thank you to Marcellus Wiley, and thank you for being with us here on Believe in Bills.